Good morning and welcome to Now Streaming this morning, reaching you live from the Advent Cable Network Nigeria here in the nation's capital. Nigeria, our fatherland, a land blessed with milk and honey. Yet there's nothing to write home about all these blessings. Has hunger, death, and struggle continued to be the order of the day? Battle for power and prominence still remain the priority of our politicians rather than the well-being of their citizens. Today we'll be delving into the main discussions that affect us as Nigerians. I am Somtochikul Okizo, and with me is my co-anchor Rachel Igbunu.
Okay, so too. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewers. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Rachel. You look stunning this morning.
Thank you.
We have with us also in the studio barrister Ikechukwu Nwakama, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you for being with us in the studio this morning.
You're welcome to the studio. Welcome.
I remember our viewers, you can call in using the number shown on your screen, or you can send us your comment via any of our social media platforms also shown on your screen. But before we look into the main stories we have this morning, let's take a quick look at some of the newspaper dailies that came in early. Over to you, my co-uncle.
All right, I'll take it up from here, from the Vanguard newspaper. I'll take it above the masthead. Terrorism. Federal government CDS orders held ECWA's conviction in Finland. Will take further action against ECWA. This is coming from the AGF. Courts should expedite hearing of terrorism cases, coming from the NBA. You can find the story on page 11. And on page 14, empowerment of bandits. Federal government tackles El Rufai, says claim baseless. And now to the lead story. Jonathan to Keyamo and Odin Kalu. Keep up my political journey. The kickers we have here says, keep up my political journey. I don't need your counsel. Jonathan, 100% qualified for raise, says Azibwala, ex-president's cousin. He's been deceived. Fielding Obi will spell doom for PDP. This is coming from Wiki. At I won't run for president. Okay, that is the kickers on this story, and it can be found on page 5. We have this story beside the picture story. Nigerians in South Africa mobilized for Super Eagles against Bafana. That is on sport. And below the picture story, power-hungry politicians seeking to remove Tinubu. This is coming from the presidency on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. And from WHO, childhood cancer, 400,000 children diagnosed annually. Wow, this is outrageous. That story is on page 9. And Rivers local government poll, Obi Labour Party condemned election. Go to court. As they tell us every time, if you're not satisfied, please go to court. The story is on page 12. And the last story here on the Vanguard newspaper, broached agreement. Resident doctors threaten nationwide strike. See the story on page 10 of the Vanguard newspaper. And on the Punch newspaper, above the masthead, Nigerian embassies hit by unpaid rent, salary arrears. Story on page 3. And on page 2, PDP, that is 2027, PDP obedience tackle Wiki over Jonathan and Obi. Then we have this story, Dangote fuel exports surge amid foreign refineries shut down. See the story on page 28. Still on the story on Samuel Ekpa, terrorism trial. Federal government may seek Ekpa's repatriation after Finland's 6-year jail term. Government will take further action after judgment review, coming from the AGF. Ruling warning to extremists. Information minister, the story is on page 2. And we have the bottom strip story. 60-year-old man arrested for raping Lagos lady. On page 5 of the Punch newspaper, and the last story here says Oyetola blames wooden boats as accident, claims 92 live. story on page 27. Over to you, Sonto.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that. And quickly moving to the Guardian newspaper this morning. Above the masthead, we have FG sets up committee to address foreign missions debt. We can find that on page 5 on the Guardian newspaper. And just beside that, we have the CSO laments state's defiance of Supreme Court's ruling on local government allocations. Also, beside that, that story we can find on page 3 on the Guardian newspaper. And also still on the Guardian, we have FG urges traditional medicine practitioners to standardize products. This we can find on page 3 also on the Guardian newspaper. And still on the Ekpe issue, Finnish court jails Ekpe 6 years for terrorism and fraud, that we can find on page 20. And below that we have how integrity character stopped Wiki from eyeing 2027 presidential bid. We can find that also on the Guardian newspaper, and I would really want us to talk about that, but when we dive into the main story. And also APC and state government fight trade wars over insecurity in Kaduna. That can be found on page 29 on the Punch newspaper and on Guardian newspaper. And lastly, we have Nigeria to reallocate dormant oil blocks, signs new production and sharing contract, that we can find on business page 15 on the Guardian newspaper. And that's all we have for you this morning on the Nigerian dailies that came in this morning. So quickly before we dive, mainly I would want us to talk briefly on the issue of Simon Ekpa being jailed for 6 years in Finland, and there are some certain jail there are some things that were used against him on the account of terrorism. He was accused of fostering violence and also practicing law without license. And since we have a legal practitioner with us in the studio this morning, I want you to make a comment on Simon Ekpa's arrests.
Arrest and he's been jailed.
Yes, he's been
6 years.
yes.
Yeah.
All right, you know that the rise of Samuel Ekpa was as a fallout of the absence of Nnamdi Kanu.
Yeah.
So what then happened was we had someone who just assumed the position
Of a prime minister.
and then what we saw and experienced was that his approach became quite violent, and he had a voice that people were listening to, which created some level of insecurity in Southeast. Now, what all that did was that the Nigerian government could not have access to him, given the fact that he's a citizen of Finland, also a citizen of Nigeria, and completely carrying out these acts outside the territory of Nigeria, which today it has been subjected to legal test, whether someone can be convicted for
A crime.
yes, a crime committed outside the country. So it's a welcome development from my end to say that it's important that we need to board this kind of attitude that comes from persons who fuels violence, who tries to use the insecurity situation we have in the states to propagate personal interests. Now, what is the takeaway for me in all these things is that, look, we need to review our Nigerian justice system.
Yeah.
Because you could see that this man was taken to court within a short while. A conviction has been handed down. And if you understand how criminal jurisprudence work,
I think this was his arrest was last year.
absolutely.
Yes.
And today we are already having a sentence, you know. If you understand how criminal jurisprudence work, you need to understand that they need to put him through series of trial. So it means they must have called witnesses, they must have taken documentary evidence, and a lot of things must have gone in before the court will arrive at a verdict to either find him guilty or not guilty. Now look at Nigeria and look at our criminal justice system. You will see that the majority problem we have in the prisons, when we talk about prisons conjecture, is that persons there are waiting trial. Some of them will be on trial even till the time allotted by the provisions of the law for that particular crime will allow. So I give you an instance. Someone is facing issue of theft, and let's say the crime is punishable by 3 years. He'll be in prison waiting a trial for more than 5 years.
Yeah, true.
So who compensates him for this? So Nigerian government should understand that if we are going to move Nigeria, especially our judicial system, forward, we need to be time conscious when it comes to criminal offenses. Ekpa's case is a classical example that our criminal justice system is a failure. Nigerians today are celebrating what is happening in Finland, whereas we have issues of terrorism and terrorism cases that have lasted even from Goodluck Jonathan's administration. And you have that going on and on. So who benefits from this system? It keeps fueling the crisis we have in our country. So it's a welcome development, and I'm happy. I also read about a story that was shared that the Nigerian government will definitely take steps to see how they can bring him back. Well, when we get at that, we'll see whether that can be possible.
Yeah, you made mention of how this case was before we know it, and they've arrived at a conclusion as it is now. If I'm not mistaken, Nnamdi Kanu has been since 2021.
Yeah,
this is the fourth year now and still counting.
Absolutely.
And we don't know where this is leading and heading to. What is still stalling this case from whatever it is you have hold on him? Let's get this done and know we are done with, and let's face another case.
Yeah, just to add to what she said, listening or seeing some of the judgments on Nnamdi Kanu, he, according to the law, I believe he probably has been proven not guilty of some of these actions, and yet the government has insisted that he would not be released, following the law. Is that right? Or do you think he's probably guilty and yet he was proven not guilty? I don't know, because whatever the case might be, if the court proves someone not guilty, it means
he's persecute him.
Yeah, but because one of the major issue of this Biafra agitation is the fact that this man has been proven to not be guilty by the by the court, but yet the federal government of Nigeria is still holding it. So, as a legal practitioner, can you enlighten us on this?
I was in the East.
Okay.
Just came back from the East, and I had the privilege of listening to conversations on air, on radio mostly, because that's what people bank on, right? And I heard this kind of narrative that the court found him not guilty. Why are they keeping him? And it appears that is the view of majority of persons in the Southeast, even though that is not correct.
Okay.
Because his case of being guilty or not guilty has not been determined. It's still in the process. But what happened is that he was granted a bail.
Yeah.
And that bail was breached by the federal government, which led him to run for his life, and then they arrested him and brought him back, which the court has held to be an illegal process. So that on its own does not extinguish the criminal trial. But what we've observed so far is that the prosecution has been stalling this process. And if you understand, like I keep saying, how our judicial system works, you discover that at every stage of the trial, you see the prosecution bringing up new charges, amending the charge sheet, and all these things stalls the criminal proceedings, stalls the process. Because, yes, the judge may not have a final control of the proceedings. His own is seized as an trial, and then you do your case. There's a limit of interference a judge can actually have over cases. So what we've seen so far is tactical delay by the federal government, and what I also term as some kind of delay from his team. Because I've made this argument with some of my colleagues, and I've told them, look, instead of all these stages of appeal, at every stage they file an appeal, they go on appeal, why not let us take the trial? Whatever the case is, We're already in court. Let us take the trial, and then let the court determine whether or not this man is guilty. And that is exactly what is happening now. Because to see that some very senior advocate has stepped into the matter. You have the likes of Kano Agadi, and the like. So if you have been following the proceedings, you see that that particular matter has been given some speedy hearing. Some speedy, in fact, is at this, I understand that it's already at the stage of no case submission, which is, the defense is saying, the prosecution has closed their case. So the defense is saying, you have not been able to prove or put in substantial evidence to warrant us to go into defense. So the court has adjourned that particular process, to determine whether the prosecution has put in evidence to warrant the defendants, putting in their defense. So if that has been the case, I know and I believe by now you would have seen that this matter would have been concluded for a long time, because you saw the case of them saying they don't want Justice Inyako, the issue of going to the CJ refusing them appeal, and all of that, happens to affect our judicial process. But in all these things, right, the biggest beneficiary and losers of all this judicial uncertainty is the public. Why should a person who is facing trial not have confidence in the judge? You hardly see this outside this country. It's because of the lack of trust of the citizens in the judicial process, and that has actually stalled not just Nnamdi Kalu's case, many other cases. We experience those kind of issues. So I believe that to answer you, he has not been found not guilty. I believe the moment he's found not guilty, he will walk out of the courts free. But they are now following the process, and I believe in no distant time that particular matter will be concluded.
All right, viewers, please remember you can always call in via the number showing on your screen, and also send in your comments through any of our social media platforms. But before we move on to the case in Rivers, as you spoke, I just have a few questions I would want to ask you. We're talking about law in Nigeria, and it happens that a man over there in Finland can declare a mandatory one-day public holiday for those sitting at the. It is a must. Every Monday it's sit at home, and this is a sovereign. It has come to stay for over how many years now? Even the governors have tried to force their people, their citizens, to go out on Monday, but there's nothing that can be done about it. That's one. What can you say about that? What kind of law do we operate? Does it mean that the state government do not have what it takes to protect the lives of the citizens that might want to defer that law by coming outside? Then secondly, rumor has it probably that at some point before our independence was gained, or after our independence was gained, that there was like a memorandum signed that the Biafrans are going to have a country of their own. Just for clarity, by the law, was anything of such? Did any of such happen? Because this thing started from the likes of Ojukwu, and he fought it with he felt like there was something, because I've heard and I think I've stumbled upon something like that says it was signed that at some point the Biafrans, they were going to be a sovereign nation on their own. So just enlighten us on those 2 points.
Okay, so the issue of sit at home is quite disturbing, and for some states in the southeast, they have, whittled down the sit at home. But also remember that when you have a vacuum of this nature, there are some non-state actors that will capture the situation and turn that particular incident to their own advantage. We heard about the unknown gunmen, we heard about the ESN, we heard about all manner of non-state actors who actually lash into this particular situation and cost a lot of things. So, what can be done? The citizens on their own, if you recall, did make effort to go back to their businesses, and they were being attacked, they were being killed. And how many security forces are you going to deploy? We even in most cases, they were attacking security formations and all of that. So for them, it is safer for them to stay at home.
Yeah.
Banks don't work, schools don't work. In fact, I tell people that
I doubt if governors even go to work on Monday. If government house actually opens, because people would have to go.
Absolutely. So even the Southeast now has extra holiday.
Yeah.
You know, so why we are waking up on Monday morning,
they are relaxing.
They're already, you know, sleeping and all that. Maybe that can actually add to their the longevity of their life. But on a lighter note. But the main issue is that with time, right? Once there is sufficient assurance, and once the issues are addressed, because the issues of agitation is not just the creation of the states or the creation of Biafra, it's the issue of neglect of that particular region.
Okay.
So the moment these issues are addressed, I believe that people will have confidence to, you know, challenge these non-state actors and to reclaim back their consciousness of a state. Now, speaking about the issue of signing of documents, I'm not aware, and I don't hold brief for Biafra agitators, right? But I can speak as a lawyer. Whatever document that might have existed or may not have existed cannot take precedence over our constitution.
Okay.
The constitution of Nigeria makes Nigeria one indivisible state. Okay. So as far as Nigeria is concerned, Nigeria is one entity that cannot be fragmented by even any agreement so far. But if any region wants to secede, there are processes to that which I need to come back again to educate the public on that. But at the moment, no agreement can override the provisions of the Constitution, because the provisions of the Constitution enjoys supremacy. And that supremacy says that any law or anything that is in contrary with the provisions of the Constitution shall, to the extent of its inconsistency, be void. So that particular agreement is already voided by the Constitution. And you know that the Constitution is the foundation of every nation. So it's what establishes that nation to be. And if that is the case, I do not think any agreement will suffice in this instance.
Okay, Les, thank you so much for that. And moving on to Rivers State, it's been a disturbing election that happened in the last week. And before we move into that, let's look at the law. What legality does the sole administrator of Rivers State have in conducting a local government election, and also the appointment of RSIEC chairman?
The Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission.
To be fair to you, I think the issues of Rivers State is quite controversial. And there are multi-layers of legal issues. You could argue in any part, and you might seem to be correct. You could argue for the sole administrator, and the law might side you. You could also argue against the sole administrator, and you see the law siding you. Okay, so what we have experienced in Rivers State from the time, I think in March, when the president
declared the state of emergency,
is that our legal jurisprudence needs to be subjected to a serious interpretation. And if you are going to get the proper interpretation to what is happening in Rivers State, we have to fall back to the principles of democracy. And this is where we have gotten it all wrong as a nation. Democracy has to do with the will of the people. And in all these things, you could see that the will of the people has been subverted. Nobody talks about what the people feel, and what, you see what plays out to be a power tussle between individuals. The president declared a state of emergency under Section 305 of the Constitution. Now, this state of emergency was declared for the purposes of restoring peace
and sanity
in Rivers State. What we have seen so far, does it think that was the intent of that declaration?
No.
We have a democratic process, and we're a democratic nation. And they need to understand that the people of Rivers State have suffered so much and has been insulted to their face because of all these things that is happening. A state of emergency was declared, and the governor was suspended, which is contrary to the Constitution. Suspended the governor, brought a sole administrator, and then empowered the sole administrator to go all hell wire. I have not even seen what he has done to restore the peace in Constitution. All we have seen so far is his active indulgence in
everything.
yes,
Yeah.
in politicking. So we now come to the issue of River State election, which was one of the major issues. You know, the house was demolished. A lot of things happened.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court said, no, you don't have a budget. We cannot release the
The
funds.
president even approved the budget for them.
Absolutely, and we are seeing this. So, what does the law say? First, the law allows the president to declare state of emergency. Secondly, the law doesn't empower the president to suspend the governor, and this is where this crisis is coming from. Ordinarily, a state of emergency is not against the governor.
No.
It's against the situation.
Yeah.
But the president and those who are around him now saw that state of emergency against Fubara. So Fubara is put in the picture, not the issue that the state of emergency came to resolve. Now, what happens? Ordinarily, when state of emergency is declared, the governor and the sole administrator should work together.
Yeah.
Because there are constitutional provisions that only a democratically elected governor can do.
Okay.
A sole administrator is a creation of an emergency rule, and I've heard a lot of people argue the Emergency Rule Act of 1961 allows the president to do whatever thing he wants to do. I said, no. There's no law that is absolute.
Yeah, there's no absolute power.
And this 1961 law that you're referring to has been laws that have been promulgated. There have been a lot of other laws,
Yeah.
you know, which are democratically made laws. Those laws are laws made under military administration and all that.
Okay. Sorry, we have a caller.
Okay.
Please go on with your call. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome to your guest.
Okay.
Thank you.
So far, we are having about 2 trending topics that discussed. I want to start from the River State issue you just pointed out. Yesterday, I said I communicated with the people of River State on the death of democracy in that region. I am still saying it, but I do not have the money to go there and follow the people and cry very well, because democracy dies here. Democracy cannot be held again from River State. Allow Wike to finish up River State as Tinubu has finished Lagos. So there's nothing you can talk about River today that will make River to wake up again. It is dead and it is dead. So long APC will win 20 local governments in River State, where PDP governor is ruling. What are we saying again? Allow that state to go. It is telling you that in 2027, it is either Ubara comes back as APC governor, or he go allow another person to come and stay there as APC governor. River State is long discussed as APC state, so that one is gone. Talking about Simon Ekpa, I want to start by asking probably a rhetorical question to your best people. You see, he mentioned the torment, the long waiting of the illegal holding of Simon Kanu in the court, in the but then I believe he is from the South Sea. He is from the South Sea. I don't know which state where he comes from. A few weeks ago, the NBA, Nigeria Bar Association, assembled at Enugu for a conference, and they invited a man called Julius Malema, who was believed to be a freedom fighter. My question to him is Nnamdi Kanu a freedom fighter or a terrorist? Are you waiting for the Nigerian government to label him a terrorist? What have you done as a lawyer in this country, knowing that a man who is perceived to be a freedom fighter from your own region has been held unjustly, and you people could go as far as South Africa to bring a man, and you people were clapping for him? That aside, the emergency of Simon Ekpa was because Nigerian government held Nnamdi Kanu in prison unjustly. the establishment of the so-called Monday sit at home was because he said, Simon Ekpa said, and I quote, until federal government of Nigeria released Nnamdi Kanu. If you watch some things, so several years ago, before that in 2021, a prominent man of God in Abuja here, what's this man from Santos Royal Assembly, Joshua Igila, he said, if you arrest Nnamdi Kanu, another Nnamdi Kanu will arise, and it will be very, very warm. And that was when Simon Ekpa emerged, and he was over there issuing threats, issuing commands, and it was being obeyed. Today, Nigerians and the federal government, they are happy because Simon Ekpa has been sentenced to 6 years imprisonment. To me, it is even too small. Yes, it is too small. 6 years is too small. But can we say that even if he was sentenced to 100 years imprisonment, can we equate that sentence to the lives of people from the east that have been killed? Can we equate the whole sentencing to what the economic destruction they have caused? Until federal government addresses this issue amicably by the help of the so-called politicians and leaders from the southeast, I want to tell you, another gentle Yahoo in Imo State has arisen. And until he starts killing, until he starts doing the same thing that Simon Ekpa has taught them to do, then by then maybe the people of Okigwe and the whole Imo State and other parts of the southeast will rise up to defend. I don't know what happened to our people from the southeast. Only Igbo rose up 3 minutes ago to talk about the establishment of Ojibwa, and their people called him to the order. What is happening? What is holding the Southeast people from addressing this issue? They are saying prolong the money.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Because of our time, we hear you clearly. We hear you loud and clear. Would give this moment to our legal practitioner to respond and also give us his closing word.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sunday. I wish you are sitting
in the studio. He hears you. He's watching, so I'm sure he's
so that
here.
we can discuss this. If you followed me earlier, I did condemn the arrest and detention of Nnamdi Kanu, right? And even NBA that I belong to had made comments in the public about the injustice, because any justice that is delayed is denied.
Okay.
Now he said, are you going to tag Nnamdi Kanu as a terrorist or a freedom fighter? It doesn't lie in my hands to do that. But the reality is that every section of this country has right to self-determination. And that self-determination is guaranteed under the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights. But self-determination follows a process, right? And what Nnamdi Kanu is doing, like I did mention to you, goes beyond creating state of Biafra, but rather calling attention to the marginalization of that region, which I did mention earlier. Okay, so I don't see anything wrong with what he's doing, provided that he stays within the bounds of the law.
Okay.
Is he within the bounds of the law? That is what is being tested in courts. And it would be wrong for me to start talking about this process when we're almost at the tail end of the conclusion. And I tell Mr. Sunday, be patient. I can tell you, with the level of lawyers that are involved in defense of Nnamdi Kanu, I am sure that justice will be served at the end of the day. But we have so many problems with our justice system, because at the end of the day, assuming that the court comes to a conclusion that this man has committed nothing, who pays him for the time he has spent in detention? While all these things were going on. And don't also forget, Mr. Sunday, there are some other political undertones to this, which again may not be in the public forum. But all we can tell you is that the team that is already on ground is doing their best, and I'm sure in no distant time there will be a judicial determination to this. Justice Malema and Nnamdi Kanu are not on the same pedestal. Malema is not fighting for a region. Malema is fighting for the right of the blacks. But when you are now saying that, look, a region has to go from Nigeria, there is then a process that will lead to that self-determination, which I have argued here is a fundamental right. right to self-determination has been guaranteed under the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights, which is a law that our constitution has ratified. So, again, let us even agree on decide as to whether or not an act of terrorism has been committed. And if you have followed the way federal government is going, it's good that they keep changing their goalposts. Today they will say terrorism, tomorrow they will say terrorism financing, next tomorrow they will remove the one, another day they will bring that he wants to topple a government. There are a lot of things that they are trying to battle with. But be patient, Mr. Sunday. I am sure in no distant time that particular determination will come in. You also know that there was this Wazurike. You know, that's where we had the Wazurike at the time we have Nnamdi Kanu. And like he rightly mentioned, if the issues are not addressed, take away Nnamdi Kanu, there will be another person until the social injustice in the southeast is properly addressed.
Okay, so this is okay.
I do not close my thoughts on the river states.
Okay.
You know, to say whether and I was waiting for Mr. Sunday to tell us the date of the burial. They have told us that democracy is there. But one assurance I can give the public is whatever that is happening, the society has a way of outliving these people. Some nations have had worse than what we have in Nigeria. In fact, I woke up this morning, I was asking myself, can we really say we're in democracy? What is happening? How come the citizens are not in the equation of what is going on? And all the things you are reading is whether Goodluck Jonathan should whether Obi, these people do not really talk about things that affect the people.
I keep on saying that because it's like they're just after their own, for just themselves.
Absolutely.
And not after the people they are coming to govern.
But markets, it will get to a time that the society will correct itself. Go and check the histories, go and read about histories of this kind of thing. The society will definitely correct itself. River State is not completely dead. The power players are playing, and I wouldn't want any citizen of Nigeria to go and kill himself over this. We know how Fubara came to be a governor. Right? And we also know what is going on. So let them allow the issues to, on its own, find a way to, reset. And I also call on the judiciary to act quickly and give interpretations that seeks to favor the citizens. Because all we have is, and this occurred when we had some Supreme Court decisions as to whether there is a budget, whether there is and a lot of crisis came up. I'm calling on the courts to ensure that decisions they will bring out, that of course most of these issues are being tested, are decisions that will lean towards democracy. Anything outside democracy, which is the people, would defeat the purpose of what we are doing. So that is my own,
as you wrap up and with your last word, we have less than 20 days for, let's say reinstallment of Fubara. Do you see that coming to play? Because this is we are in the 6th month already. Do you see that coming to play as it stands now?
I think what is happening, in my view, is that some people are now playing God in this. I say this because you saw the Rivers State governor coming up to say that, the coast is clear, Fubara will come back. Everybody wants to take glory of Fubara coming back.
You're talking about Wiki.
Yes, the former governor of saying that the coast is clear. So he's giving indication that I'm the one in charge, trying to communicate that to the people clearly. And then I don't know what will be the response of the people from the presidency, whether they are going to follow suit, right? And when it happens, a lot of people are saying that now we know who is the president, whether it is Wiki. So we wouldn't be sure, but what I can tell you is that it makes no difference whether Wiki comes back now or Wiki doesn't come. Fubara comes back now. It makes no difference.
Because he will still be controlled.
He's gone. That was what Mr. Sunday was trying to explain. Everything about that state is in shambles. It has been completely captured. What happens is something I can't tell, but I know that the National Assembly can extend it if they so wish. Let's wait and see what will happen before then.
All right, Michael, Anchor, your last words.
Okay, so far so good on the program. We still apologize for all the glitches and not starting at the right time. We, like the barrister has said, we'll see how things will play out. In the case of Nnamdi Kanu, Samuel Ekpa is in He's in prison already, and after then we'll hear what the Nigeria government has for him so far. So thank you for staying tuned with us today. Have a blessed day. I am Rachel Igwe.
All right, thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you so much, Barrister Ike Chuku.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really been an exciting section this morning with you, and it's been educative. Just like we started this morning, Nigeria is a blessed nation with so many things, but yet nothing to write home about. Our politicians still believe it is all about them. And the question this morning is, Nigeria, when is our breaking point? Please remember to leave the fire of curiosity burning and let your words inspire change. Nigeria will be great again. I am Somtochukul Okizo. Thank you for staying tuned with us. Bye for now.